Hello and welcome to the transcription explanation of this design. It says Thomas and Karen forever, and it does so in the script shown above me, which is something me and my friends have been developing since high school and has since been adopted on the TV show Doctor Who as language of the Time Lords, Circular Gallifreyan. And I'm going to be explaining how this design says what it says using this key. The first thing I want you to note is that there's a big grid. So there are different columns, and then there are different rows. And these rows are made by letter stems, which are over here, and the very top row is a horseshoe shape for the B's, the blank, the CH, D, and D, F, G, H. And then the next row is a full circle floating inside our word circle, starting with the J, and then there's a shallow divot starting with the T, and then on the bottom row there are crossing circles. I'm going to go ahead and point out some of these in this design. So here is that top row shape, that horseshoe. This is the ND in the and then there is a floating circle fully inside our word circle. So this is our word circle for the next guy. And this guy floats inside the word circle, so does this one. In fact, here's another word circle, and this one floats inside the word circle. So it doesn't matter that it crosses other lines. What matters is the word circle line for the internal or crossing letters. Now, for the third row, there are these shallow divots, like this V and this R, and then in the bottom row, there's the crossing circle, like the TH here, that crosses our word circle in Thomas. Then vowels are these little guys, and they have different positions depending on what vowel they are. So an E position is the base vowel position, and E is centered right in the middle of our word circle, or it's centered inside of a letter stem, like this guy. An O is internal, so it's inside of our word circle, inside of the word circle. Now it's hard to keep track of what's a sentence circle and what is a word circle. A sentence circle goes around the word circle. You can tell it's a sentence circle because it doesn't have any letters on it and has some impossible breaks, like this guy is kind of broken up here, and it has this letter inside of it, and this horseshoe shape makes this our word circle. So this is our sentence circle, this is our word circle, and this A is outside of our word circle. So it's outside of the word circle, but inside the sentence circle. Similarly to this A, which is inside this sentence circle, but outside this word circle. And an O is internal, so it's positioned inside our word circle. An O can also be attached on a consonant. For example, I could have put this O here attached on this F stem here, but if it's inside, then it's an E, and then if it's an outside letter, it's an A. So here's our little O. Alright, let's go ahead and read this. So starting at the bottom and going counterclockwise, here's our first word, and this letter crosses our word circle, and none of these lines end on it, so that means it's in the first column and is therefore the letter TH. Then we continue around, here's a little guy inside the word circle, so an O, and then this guy's a full circle, and there's 1, 2, 3 lines sticking off of it. This one passes through, this one ends over here, and this one stops here, and stops here, and then this one stops here. So that's 3 lines on the M. Here's our A outside the word circle, and then last but not least, we have 1, 2, 3 lines ending on this shallow divot for the S. And then we have our and this word circle has an A on the outside of it, and then a horseshoe with 4 dots for the ND. Karen, I did a little bit of fun swirly stuff with it. We have a K, a full circle with 2 dots, and then we continue all the way around here for our A, and then another shallow divot for the 3 dots for the R. And the reason why I took this big ol' gap was so I could put this R here to nestle these guys together. So that's why there's such a big space here. And then here we have our E and our N. So normally you read a consonant and then a vowel if they're together like this. But because I have this slash, this little guy here, slashing our vowel, that tells you to bring it up 1 letter in the stack. So here we have an N and an E, but instead of being the N and then the E is brought up in front of the N. And it's an N because it has 1 line on it. This swirly curly Q is the 1 line on the N. So that's Karen, K-A-R-E-N. And then we have our last word here, a horseshoe shape with 1, 2, 3 lines. Yes, this looks like a full circle, but because it ends here and it ends here, it's just line modifiers. So things can look really similar to full circles, like this little guy and this guy for the K and the N. If this were erased, it would suddenly become an M with 2 extra dots. So yeah. Keeping those full circles full and these shallow, not the divots, the line modifiers that end on it, is important. And then we have our O, which is floating inside of our word circle. And then an R with shallow divot 3 dots, E centered, V with 1 line, another E, and then another R. So F-O-R-E-V-E-R forever. So altogether, we have Karen and Thomas. This is Thomas and Karen forever. Hope you like it. Thanks. Bye.